Hi you guys, it's Poe and I'm back again after a very long time because I was at the Nashville riot yesterday and I was tear gassed, and I wanted to tell you guys from first-hand experience what went down in Nashville yesterday. So, I arrived at the Legislative Plaza around noon or 1 o'clock, which was a couple hours before the protest was set to begin. I handed out some food to the homeless. I had some homeless friends in the area to visit, so I waited with them and I watched the protest be set up. I watched everyone arrive. I wanted to keep an eye out for my friends, for anybody who could be, harmful. But it was really good. We had thousands of people turn out, and it was beautiful, really. We chanted, you know, there were so many nice signs. It was great, honestly. Around 5 o'clock, the march started. The march began at Legislative Plaza and ended at the police department. And at this point is when things started going crazy. There were a few kids who attacked a police car. And by kids, I don't know how old these people were. But they looked young. They were young people. They started beating on a police car, spray painting it. A couple of people hopped on top and, had their hands up. At least one of the people who was on top of the car with their hands up, not violently beating the car or anything. Like, this guy was, just protesting on top of the car, which I'm not saying is, okay, but I'm saying they then grabbed him by the ankles and yanked him down. They also pepper sprayed a lot of people. But the protesters worked very hard to keep that from escalating. We put ourselves in between police and others to keep the distance, to let people be arrested, but we did not let people be brutalized. But we didn't let it escalate. We didn't let it escalate. Us, the protesters. When people started throwing things, we told them to leave. We were like, no, we're trying to remain peaceful. After the incident with the car, things went back to being peaceful. It was peaceful, and we were on the precinct sidewalk protesting. When we started hearing through the radios that they were going to try and push us back. So first they started with, regular cops, trying to push us, trying to tell us to leave, and then they brought in riot police. And the riot police started using, their batons, forcing their batons into our chests to try to push us back, shoving us, screaming in our faces. At this point, when riot police showed up, white allies linked arms at the front, toe-to-toe with riot police to keep them from hurting any people of color. There was just a line of white allies, linked arms with like an unbreakable line, right? I was on that line. So I witnessed these things firsthand. I experienced these things firsthand. I had a baton shoved in my chest, and I had police scream in my face to move back while I was saying, I can't move back, I'm being pushed forward. When they couldn't break us like that, they brought in horses, and they didn't care about our safety at all. They tried to ride the horse down our line to break us, and they did this twice. They rode the horse down the line twice, and this is what happened to me. If you can't tell, that's just all bruised. That's just all bruised because of one of those fucking horses. Which, I don't blame the horses, obviously, it's the cops' fault. But people were really mad that they brought out the horses, and that situation almost escalated in itself. By the second time they rode through and we didn't break and somebody almost knocked a cop off a horse, they decided to take the horses away and just leave, and things became peaceful from then on. We started talking to the police. We were having discussions. We were telling them our frustrations. I listened to black folk explain their fear, explain their anger, and some of the cops were empathetic. Some of them were apathetic and would roll their eyes or laugh, and some of them were acting like they were empathetic, but when you really talked to them, they kind of made it all about them anyway. But that went really well, and eventually the crowd broke into two. And about half the people, maybe even more, ran to a tunnel. They were headed towards the courthouse, I believe. And they were gassed in the tunnel. They weren't doing anything. The worst thing going on in that tunnel may have been some spray painting. But there was a pop, and then people were running from the tunnel. I didn't know what happened at the time. I was told later they were tear-gassed. But I watched them run in terror from the tunnel. But they went to the court. They went back through into the courthouse, and we stayed at the precinct. Like, quite a few people stayed at the precinct and continued protesting peacefully until that dispersed naturally on its own, completely peacefully. A lot of us headed then to what was happening at the courthouse because we started hearing about fires over the police radios. When I got there, there was no more fires. Nothing was on fire anymore. There was nobody on courthouse property except riot police. So I went through, which they weren't saying, they weren't saying get off or anything. They were just lined up outside in full riot gear. They weren't saying we couldn't be there at this time. But I was there. One man was there screaming about having been gassed because he was so mad that they would gas his city, his home, where his family lives. That's all he was doing. He was yelling from quite a distance away. We were quite a distance away from them when we got gassed. There were only 3 people on that lawn. And they threw multiple tear gas bombs at us. But I didn't realize it was tear gas until the burning started, because there had also been fireworks and smoke grenades and stuff. But I was wearing goggles and a wet mask, so the harm done was minimal, but it was still incredibly painful. But yeah, so I was just on the lawn peacefully filming. So I do have part of this on video that I can show that there was no violence happening when I was gassed. After they gassed me, which, oh my god, one of the most painful experiences of my life. I walked away. I walked across the street. I poured water in my eyes, and then somebody else poured milk in my eyes for the pain. And I watched multiple people being very, very ill from the gas and stuff. They started gassing the area so heavily that it was wafting across the street, and then people started going back onto the lawn with their signs and stuff. And there were some insiders there, I'm absolutely sure, but overall people weren't trying to incite, they were just trying to protest. And this area was gassed, the courthouse lawn was gassed so heavily that you couldn't even be in the block around the courthouse without getting sick. At this point is when I left, because just being across from the courthouse, just being quite a distance away from the courthouse, I was getting sick again from the gas. I watched a reporter start getting sick from the gas. And this is when I walked away and went back to my car. I had to walk through the courthouse area to get back to my car. I had no choice. That's where I was. That's where I had to go. It's where I had come from in the first place, But I had seen that it was empty, and I just wanted to film, So I didn't commit any violence. There was no violence or anything being committed when I was gassed. And there was no reason for it. I had every right to be on that property. Once again, courthouse is public property. Then, after I was gassed, they started saying, you can no longer be here, disperse. And then the second wave of rioting began. I know for a fact, my mom watched it live on the news, that when the fires started, people were actually being peaceful. They were milling around when one guy went in with a fucking Molotov cocktail, and everything devolved, and they started gassing everyone in the area, including a 10-year-old. Every one of the insiders that we have on video was white. Every one of the fire starters was white. These weren't people of color who were protesting. These were white inciters. There's been, speculation on whether they were white supremacists or just people taking advantage of the chaos or police insiders, but what I do know is that they were not protesters, and protesters, including myself, and so many other people had worked so hard to keep this peaceful. They were not us. They did not represent us, and they had nothing to do with us. They were people taking advantage of Black Deaths to cause chaos. Yeah, so I'm not sure, after that, I don't know how it devolved. I don't know how it kept going down, but I do know the protesters did not incite this violence. We did not start the riot. There's supposed to be a second day of protests, but I was sick for several hours after what happened, and I don't think my body can handle a second day of protests. And I also have to caretake for my aunt today, but I wanted to let you guys know what really happened. I didn't break a single law. I didn't scream in the faces of police. Well, on the riot line, we were screaming, but we didn't, like, get up in their faces. They were at us. They were coming at us, It's not like we were... No. So, just be careful with the videos. With what you can see isn't the full story. It isn't... I don't think I have really too much else to say about the matter. I spent several hours afterward very sick to my stomach, I had a very bad headache. I was in a lot of pain. My friend invited me to her house to shower and eat because I had to get the tear gas off. So yeah, it was rough. I don't really know what else to say. Like, that's what happened. That's what I saw with my own eyes. That's what... Anyway, if you were there, it'd be hella interesting to know if... I don't know. Anyway. I'm okay. I was, barely hurt, barely affected by the tear gas, besides the pain. I'm fine. But I'm not sure who was injured, if there were severe injuries. I really don't know. The news is purporting it as the protesters being the ones to incite, but we weren't, and we were multiple times brutalized by police while we were being peaceful. So yeah, okay, I'm done. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. Things started off peacefully enough, and then the protests broke into two groups. I'm not sure what happened here, because I was with the other group in front of the riot police, keeping them from attacking people with fucking horses, and we were being peaceful. We were the peaceful group. I'm not sure what the fuck happened here, but I sure as hell know it's going fucking nuts, y'all.
My fucking strength. Fuck you! I fucking live here!